Good everyone, and welcome back to Apio Puzzles. And today is a Saturday, so the Saturday paper delivers yet another Liam Runnels cryptic crossword for us to have a stab at. Liam, notorious for his fun and approachable and quite often funny clues, so I'm sure we're in for an interesting time today. I want to send a special hello today as my first point of order to my niece and nephew Pippa and Will, the amazing Pippa and the incredible Will, who I've been made aware somewhat intrigued by my puzzling exploits. So my brother last night, I think they might have seen either something that I did that was solved of mine on Cracking the Cryptic, or maybe one of these crossword videos. And they're about the age where puzzles of this nature are starting to become a little bit more accessible. So hello Pippa and Will, I'm going to try to walk you through this crossword today. But I also wanted to let you know that talking to Brendan last night reminded me of a project that I've kind of had in the wings for a while. I've done a little bit on it, of a cryptic crossword video that's just for kids. So it'd be a much smaller crossword, maybe just 5 by 5, so there's not too many clues to solve. And where the clues and the answers are kind of much more kid friendly than the typical crossword, which maybe some of the vocabulary today might be new to you guys. So keep a watch out for that. I want to say hello to new subscribers. Thanks for being with me. And if you're not subscribed and you'd like to keep up with the content, then do slap the subscribe button. It is free to do. On my journey to hopefully 100 subscribers. I think I'm around 60 right now. So it's always exciting to see 1 or 2 subscribers pop up. And of course it does help YouTube to understand that I am the legend that I believe and know that I am. Now, I think without any further ado, we can get on with the puzzle. And I did have a quick scan. And I will remind you, as I always forget, there'll be a link, excuse me. There will be a link. I have my French Earl Grey today. I think it might be the first time I've had that. By the way, this amazing cup, which I was given for my birthday a few days ago. There will be a link to this puzzle in the description for the video. The Saturday paper, cryptic and other puzzles are available for free during the week that they are published. And then beyond that, you can have a paid subscription if you want to access previous editions. So give it a go if you'd like to play along. Meanwhile, I thought I'd start, but I had a scan through the clues to find one that I thought was a particularly fun and child-friendly one to begin with. And so I came to 19 across, and you can see down the bottom there, I'm going to show you where I'm focusing on. So 19 across. Now, for Will and Pippa and any other kids out there, this is going to look like a strange kind of clue, because you might have seen a crossword before, and normally there'll just be a word. It'll say number 19, there'll be a word like dog, and then there'll be you've got to put an answer, which might be cavoodle or something. I think it's a cavoodle you guys have. So that's what you're trying to do normally. Cryptic crosswords are quite different, but there is a similarity in them as well. So let me try to explain with this clue here, which is quite a fun one. So the clue says initial software bug with a toy manufacturer. Now, don't be misled. What that sentence means in the normal sense, like we're talking about some sort of company that makes toys and they've got a bug in the software on the toy or something, that meaning has nothing to do with our final answer. So it's not like a normal crossword where this means that. So no. This is a bit of an unusual setup. But as strange as it seems, it will get easier with time, and it's not quite as mad as it seems. So let's see what's going on. There will be a word in this clue, and it's either going to be this one, the one at the start, or the one at the end, or maybe the last couple of words. But it's either going to be the end of the clue or the beginning of the clue that is like a normal crossword clue. So let's say that manufacturer was the normal part of this clue, and we would find that the answer we put in here is going to be a word that means manufacturer. And you could think of a word like maker. Someone who makes something is a manufacturer, so maybe maker could be the answer. Or it could be that initial is the word that we mean, and so you might think of a word for initial. Oh, scrolling around there. Another word for initial could be first, so maybe that would be the answer. But then you might say, well, what's the point of all the rest of this stuff? If this is just a manufacturer, why do I have all these other garbage to think about? Well, this is what we call wordplay, and this helps us to get to the same answer. So let's say that the answer was a manufacturer, but we didn't think of the word maker. We just couldn't think, scratching our head, can't think of any words that mean manufacturer. Well, there might be another way to get to that same answer using what's called the wordplay. Now, I'm going to give you a heads up here that actually the part that we're looking for that's normal is toy manufacturer. So there's going to be a 5-letter word that means toy manufacturer that will be our final answer. But it's a bit sneaky, this one. So I don't think you'll think of it straight away. You might do. I certainly didn't. But we can use this other part to get to the same thing. So we start off with this initial software. And what we need to think about is words that might be telling us something about, for example, taking individual letters rather than the whole word of software. What if we took its initial letter? What if we took the first letter of software and we get just the S, and we put that in at the start here? So we go S. We go, okay, so maybe we're looking for a toy manufacturer that starts with S. Now you may not be any closer to the answer, but you might be. Have a think. Now, so we've dealt with initial software, and then we have this bug with A. So maybe we need another word, a small word for a bug. And have a think about that. What about a 3-letter word for a bug? And we also have an A that's in there as well. And not often when we see just a single letter like an A, that just goes straight in the clue. So we have initial software for S, and then we're going to have a 3-letter word meaning bug, and then our little A on the end that's just sitting there on its own. Now, can you think of a 5-letter word for somebody who manufactures toys? Not a company, but a person, starting with S and ending with A. You might have it, but if you don't, what about this 3-letter word in the middle for a bug? Well, what's a little, was it a 6-legged bug that crawls around? There's thousands and thousands of them, and they really like honey and sugar. It is an ant. And what do we get? Santa. And Santa is, of course, a toy manufacturer. So there you go. There's your first cryptic crossword clue, and I hope that it was a satisfactory gift. Now, I don't know that I can solve the entire crossword quite as slowly as that, because there's a lot of clues in this one, so I'm going to probably return to my normal speed. But I hope you enjoyed that clue, and I hope that you do enjoy the rest of the video with Brendan's help. And as I said, hopefully soon enough I'll have a little crossword ready that's full of fun words like Santa and cake and whatever other lovely things that you kids like, and we can have some fun with that. In fact, I might even get your help in making it, so watch this space. Now, as for the rest of the crossword, why don't we continue on? And to my regular viewers, thank you for sitting through an extended description of that clue. So let's come to 16 down then. We have an S in place, so that's always helpful. If we know there's a letter already in place, then we can get a bit more of a head start with this one. So lazy and spontaneous, let me move this. Lazy and spontaneous way to go grocery shopping. Now, this might be a bit of a strange one, especially for as an example for kids to understand. Let me just try to understand it myself. Right, yeah, okay, this is a fun clue. Now, and this is a word that probably you kids aren't going to understand. I'll put the answer in. It is listless. Now, listless is another word for lazy. So if you are feeling very lazy, you might say, I'm feeling very listless. It's an unusual word. And so that's the normal part of the clue. They're lazy for listless. And then the rest of it, spontaneous way to go grocery shopping. And that's kind of a funny little play where you say, if I went shopping just on a whim, I just decided I'm going to run off to the supermarket right now, then I might go without my shopping list. So I would go listless. So he's just being a little bit silly with language there, which is a very common feature of cryptic crosswords. Silly is the new sane as far as I'm concerned, certainly in the land of the crossword. So now we've got some starting letters, which are even better than middle letters. 23 across. Razor's revolting part of worst film. Right, so this is a different kind of clue again. And so this is called a hidden clue. We have part of this term here. If we take a part of that, so not all of it, but some of it, and then we turn it backwards because it's revolting, it's like coming backwards, you might see that we have the letters L-I-F-T-S. So they're in the middle there, but they're going backwards. And what does L-I-F-T-S spell? Lifts. And lifts does mean razors. So we have our final answer of lifts. Now 24 down, on a bit of a roll. Printing option, for Financial Times 2 down. Well, we don't know the answer to 2 down yet, so we probably need to get that. So let's come back. Let's have a look at 17 down. Shipment of 2 poles into property. Right, yeah, okay, so this, I didn't think it fit in, but it does, and this is a slightly difficult one as well, for the kids at least. So I'll put the answer in. This is transit. And transit is another, oops, hang on. Transit is another word for shipment. So shipment is our normal part of the clue. And then the rest of all of this is wordplay. Now, this is pretty tricky. So 2 poles. You might not think of this, but you know how we have the North Pole and the South Pole? Indeed, where Santa, I think it's the North Pole where Santa lives. So the poles are north and south, and they are the letters N and S. If you look on a compass or something like that, you'll see an N and you'll see an S at the bottom. So we're going to put those 2 poles, N and S, in our clue in the middle here, N, S. And that's going to go inside of or into a word for property. Now this is a bit of a funny one as well. The word for property here is trait, T-R-A-I-T. And so that's a word that means something to do with your personality. So, you know, if you have, if your personality, if you're funny or you're silly, or you're very caring, these are all different traits about you. And so that's another word for that is a property. So we put that property outside of the poles N and S and get our shipment. So now let's have a look at 26 across. Spooner discusses profit craze to weather tracker. Well, Spoonerisms, this is getting a bit advanced. In fact, this might be even more unusual than usual. Let's have a look. So Spooner discusses prophet craze to weather weather tracker. Actually, I'm not sure what that is. I'll explain how Spoonerisms work when I get the answer. Spoonerisms are quite a quirky one. 16. Pointing torch downwards, nimble. Right. So this is a difficult clue to solve for, I think, new cryptic solvers, because it's not the normal formula. What we're doing here is especially tricky. It's kind of like the listless clue. So the answer here is light on. Now, I don't know if it's light on your feet or light on one's feet. It's always a bit ambiguous with these. Let's say it's light on your feet. If you're light on your feet, that means that you can move around quickly and easily, and that's another word for nimble. So nimble is our final answer here. And then you might say, well, how do we know what pointing torch down? What's that got to do with light on your feet? Well, if you take a torch and you point it downwards, it will cast light onto your feet. So that's what I guess I normally describe as a figurative interpretation of that expression, because obviously light on your feet does not mean anything to do with putting a torch towards your feet, but if you read it very literally, that's what it sounds like. Most cryptic clues are not like that. Most of them are more just piecing together little letters and words, rather than having to think too kind of crazy like that. But we've kind of started with a bit of a baptism of fire. I'm guessing you don't know what that means, but Brendan can come to the rescue with that expression. Now, 18 down, we have a first letter with, well, I think it's an O, but this could be one's feet. It might not be your. So let's see, 18 down. Porous nominee dies, thrilling centrists. Not sure what this is. It doesn't help that I don't know what the first letter necessarily is. Could be an N. Okay. Yes, it is an N. So this is one's, light on one's feet. And this is neediest. And this is like the clue we had before. So we had this 23, which we said we took a part of worst film. In the middle there, we got lifts going backwards. Well, this is one of those clues, but it's just going forwards. So we see the centrists. So the central part of this expression here says Neediest, and neediest means poorest. You're in the most need, so you're the poorest. So there we go. 20 across. Page mailed again to heartless lady soon. Yeah, okay, so this is also a slightly unusual piece of vocab you wouldn't be using every day in the schoolyard. So we have the word page at the beginning. This is sometimes when you're looking at, say, like if you're reading a description of a book and it told you how many pages there were, or if the teacher says go to page 5, they might just say P5. So when we say page in cryptics, often what we mean is just to put the letter P in. So if we put P and then mailed again. So if we mail something, or if I mailed a letter, I could say I sent the letter. But if I mailed it again, I could say I resent the letter. So if we put recent after the P, we get that. Another Santa related word, present. Then we finally need 2 more letters, and we have this heartless lady. Now that normally sounds like a really cruel lady, but actually what we need is we take the word lady and we take out the middle, we take out the heart bit, and we're left with the L and the Y, which we can put here. And presently is another way of saying soon. Now it's not a very common way of saying it. I think you'll sound a little silly if you start telling your friends, I'll see you presently, but you might see it in some old books and some old, yeah, I guess mostly you would see it in books. You wouldn't even really hear an old person say it. It's only from kind of literature, I would say, for the most part. Now 20 down, did I look at this? I don't think so. Opening in Spanish for never-ending story. Interesting. Okay. Okay, yes. Well, I have a word. I don't know if it's right, so let's put it in and see if it's right. I thought the answer might be portal. A portal is an opening. Right. Yeah, I think it is portal. So this is a bit tricky because there's a reference to, okay, now I understand it, but it's still tricky. So our opening is a portal, and then the rest of this clue here is the wordplay. And the first thing I thought of when I saw this was a never-ending story. It sounds like the book. I wonder if you've read that. That's one of my favorite books. Forget the movie. The movie's okay, but the book's a lot better. But another word for a story, can you think of a 4-letter word for a story that starts with a T? You might think of tale, T-A-L-E. And if that tail is never ending, it means we take off the final letter because it's not going to finish. And that gives us our T-A-L at the end. And then the P-O-R, that is the Spanish word for four. So in Spanish, if you want to say four, you say por. And that gives you portal, which is an opening. So there we go. So cryptics are good for learning foreign languages as well. Usually it's just little words like for or in or things like this. So you will see that. Now, 25, another, or was that the same spooner? Another spoonerism. No, was I looking at the wrong one before? I was. It's my screen is too far away and I can't see the small letters in the small numbers in the corners. So let's come back to this one over here, which no, there aren't. Ooh, there's a typo. Unless, that's annoying. It looks like 25 and 26 have been typed as the same clue, but with a different final answer. That's possible. Seems unlikely. I might leave those for now. You wouldn't normally see the same clue typed twice. It's very unlikely that would work. But coming back around, swallow pill from New Guinea repelling virus. Repelling virus. Starting with E. So a pill, this often refers to the letter E because there's a drug called ecstasy and it is called E as well, and it comes in a pill normally. So that is probably our E, and then we need from New Guinea repelling virus, and the whole thing means swallow. say I know what is happening there. So answer on a postcard will come back around. 27. Oh, actually, no, I can. Sorry, I'm just suddenly crossed my mind what's going on. So I was thinking that that New Guinea meant we needed to rearrange the letters of Guinea to make it a new word. Let me scroll this back up again. But actually, just like with page, when you say page 5, you go P5. With the word new, sometimes that is abbreviated to an N. So if we put an N after the E, well, in fact, New Guinea is actually what's going on. New Guinea can be abbreviated to NG. And then repelling virus. Well, what's a virus that we get sometimes in the winter normally? Not COVID, but the one that was more common before that. You might think of the flu. And if we repel the flu, which is we turn it backwards, we push it away, we put it backwards in the answer, and we get engulf, which means to swallow. Very nice. So moving along to 22 down. Submits yearly invoice exactly listing detailed services firstly. So this again is a somewhat an uncommon word for a little kid to come across, but you may have seen it in some contexts. What we need to do, we see this word firstly and we go, aha, what if I take just the first letters of all these words, Y, I, E, L, D, and S, and we get yields. And to yield is to submit. So if someone's asking you to do something and you agree to doing it, maybe you don't really want to, but you agree anyway, then you submit to that person or you yield to them. So 27 across. Paid respects to Sally, cut short by tradie's car. Ooh, rude word, dickhead. Liam. I don't think Liam anticipates that impressionable young children will be solving his crosswords, but that's okay. We're all adults, and we're looking here for a word that means paid respects. And how do I know that? Well, I've got an S at the beginning here already and an L, and we have Sally cut short. So you might have a friend called Sally, and you may not bother saying all of those letters, Sally, when you could just say Sal. So what if we just put Sal? We've cut Sally short. Then we need a tradie's car. Now maybe you've had someone come over to the house to do some work, and they have a special kind of car that has lots of room in the back for ladders and buckets and whatnot, and that is called a ute. And our final word here, the head letter, the first letter here is a D. So we pop that on the end and we get saluted, which means paid respects. So now let's, I don't really want to do the spoonerism clue because I don't know that it is really a spoonerism. Let's have a look. Spooner discusses profit craze to weather tracker. Well, actually, this will be the accurate clue for this answer. I'll put the answer in and I'll explain what a spoonerism is. It's a bit tricky. So, a rain gauge is a weather tracker. It's a device they use to track how much rain is coming down. And so then you've got the rest of this, which can somehow get us to the same answer. Now, spoonerisms are where you have two words, and in this case we need a word for profit and a word for craze. And the words that we're going to need are gain, so the amount of profit you make is the amount of gain you make, and a word for craze, and another word for craze is a rage. So it's like like if something's really popular, it's all the rage, it's a craze, it's a fad, it's this exciting thing, like when the iPhone came out or when the new Nintendo came out. It's a craze, which we also call a rage. So we have this gain and rage, and you might realize that gain and rage sounds quite a lot like rain and gauge, and the only difference is that the first letters have been swapped over. So instead of having gain with a G here and rage, we've swapped them around to make rain and gauge. We have spelt it a little bit differently as well. So rage would not normally have a U in it, but it's more about what it sounds like. So if you say gain rage, and then you swap those first letters and you get rain gauge, there's your weather tracking instrument. So now let's go to 15 down. Broadcasts rage, more rage, and insults old ladies. Oh, that's not very fun. Rage and insults old ladies. I don't know what that is actually. There's a few ideas I have, but they don't seem to come together. So let's try another one. 14. Texan golfer taking only seconds to score. So this is a nice clue. This is a really good clue. So hopefully you'll find this quite fun, and this is the kind of clue that I kind of tends to make me really enjoy cryptics. When there's something like this going on, you'll see what I mean. So I said earlier that normally the meaning of the sentence in itself isn't really anything to do with the final answer. So although it's talking about a golfer hitting balls and maybe only in a few seconds getting a score, the final answer won't have anything to do with that. But actually in this case, this is an example where the final answer does relate to a golfer. So let's have a look at this term here, Texas golfer. And then it says taking only seconds. So what could taking only seconds mean? What if we take only the second letters of Texan golfer? So we get every second letter, we have E, A, G, L, E. Now if I pop that in, you may realize that an eagle, I don't know if you guys have played much golf or watched much golf, but an eagle is a score in golf. What is it? 2 or 3? I've forgotten now if it's 2 or 3 less than par. Yeah, I can't remember the terms now. A birdie, an eagle, but isn't there another one? So it is 2. Birdie is 1 under, eagle is 2 under, and albatross I think is 3 under. So in this clue, Liam's been very clever in finding a reference to a golfer that actually ends up with an answer that means a golf score. So it's pretty clever to find these words here that happen to have the word eagle written inside them. And that exclamation mark normally means that there's something about the clue is actually like the sentence really does mean something to do with the final answer. Now, what about this one? Is this great something? So sometimes when you get to this many letters already in place, you can start guessing, well, that looks like maybe great would go in there. Old ladies, they could be like great grandmas or great aunts or something like that. Oh, you know what it is? I've misspelled gauge. So gauge is actually G-A-U-G-E. And that allows me to put great aunts, who are old ladies. Now let's see why this works. Yeah, so broadcast is a word that we use in cryptics sometimes to mean that we need to rearrange the letters afterwards. So there's a somewhat obscure sense of the word broadcast, which means to throw out and throw around. And so if we throw around the word rage, we get G-R-E-A. And then we have these final letters, T-A-U-N-T-S. And another word for insults is taunts. So if you insult somebody, you taunt them. And if we put all that together, we get great aunts, who are old ladies. Now, what is this 7 down? It has only one letter. Where is it? So that we see at the, I should have explained actually, in case it wasn't clear. At the end of the clue, we have these numbers which tell us how many letters are in the answer. Or in this case, it's a 2-word answer with a 1-word and then a 1-letter word and then a 7-letter word. So let's see. Smart Kids Untasted Cocktail. So I think can't think of the answer here actually. Maybe you guys can, because you are smart kids. But cocktail is another word like we had before, broadcast, where we need to take these letters here and rearrange them. So if something's put in a cocktail, you mix it all up. You know, you shake the cocktail. So we're going to shake up the word untasted, and that's got 8 letters, which is what we need for our final answer. And that's going to mean a smart kid. But the first word's only 1 letter. So I feel like that has to be an A. Oh, is it just a student? Ah, okay, that's a quirky one. I think it's just a student, which is an anagram of untasted. Oh no, it's not a student, it's an A student, which is a student that gets A grades at school. So an A student is a smart kid, very clever. Oh, now we have a U here. Now that's a bit unusual because not too many letters or too many words end in U's. So let's see if that helps us out with 12 across. Starts a bicker with a solver in Louisiana wetland. Ah, right, this is nice as well. So you won't know this word. Oh, you never know. I'm somewhat surprised sometimes by the words that you kids actually do know. But you may not have heard of this one. And let's see how we might think about the clue. We have this word start, and anytime we see a word that has anything to do with beginnings or ends or middles or the position of things, we can think, oh, maybe we need to take the starting letter of bicker in this case. So what if we would put a B at the beginning? And then it's going to go alongside, it's going to go with an A, and if we see a lone A in the clue, it usually means there's an A in the answer as well. And then this one here is the crafty thing, solver. Now, what could solver mean? Well, think about it. Who is solving this crossword? Well, you might say Jordan, but if you yourself were solving it, so if I'm solving the crossword, who's the solver? It's you. Liam's saying you, the solver. So if I put you in the answer, if I can figure out how to do that, we get Bayou, which is a term for a Louisiana wetland. So that's a term from, I guess you would say, geography or geology. I'm not sure. I think geography. That's one to look up if you want to learn a little bit more about nature. To be honest, I don't know a huge amount about the Bayou either, but I had seen the word before, and I like when they do things like this, when there's this kind of, you've got to think really outside the box there and go, hang on, who's the solver? Oh, it's me. Which is, from Liam's point of view, the person's making the crossword, I am you. Right, so 6 down. Where am I? Ponting Dismissed opener, nasty. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have watched much cricket. Can you think of a cricket player with the name Ponting? So he's got a 5-letter name, and his name is Ricky. Now, what if we take Ricky, but we dismiss, so we can take away his opening letter? So the opening letter of Ricky is the R, the first letter. So we take away Ricky, the R from Ricky, and we get icky, and icky is our answer because icky means nasty. And this is another nice kind of example of a cryptic clue and why they're so fun, because the reading of the clue, it really does sound like he's talking about Ricky Ponting dismissing the first cricketer. So when the cricketer's up to hit the ball and Ponting bowls them out, that's, you say that he dismissed the player, or he dismissed the opening batsman. But of course our actual answer has nothing to do with that. So 10 down, we're coming around to going around in a little loop from the bottom left here. So 10 down. Unemployed Jack and Oscar invoke divine favor. Okay, so I got the answer to this just looking at the letters that I have in place. But if we consider how to think about this, yeah, I mean, so this is a fairly tricky one for a young solver, I think. Although you might be able to think, if I told you that the answer does mean unemployed, can you think of another word for unemployed that might go in with these letters that we've got? And that might be the easiest way to get the answer. And the other way is to use our wordplay. And Jack, do you know when you're playing cards and there's a Jack card, Jack, Queen, King, and that Jack has just a J on it? So when we see Jack in a crossword, we might think, we just need to put the letter J. And then Oscar, I don't know if you'll have come across this, but sometimes when you're spelling out words, especially over the phone, to make sure the other person hears properly, rather than saying, like with Will's name starting with a W, you could say W-I-L-L, but if they don't hear that very clearly, you can use these words for each of the letters. So W is whiskey, I is igloo, L is lemur, and this is called, I think it's called the International, well, I think it's called the International Phonetic Alphabet, but that also means something else, so I won't get into that discussion. But there is a special alphabet that has a word for each of the letters specifically for this purpose. And I think it mainly is used in things like if you're flying a plane, or you're a pilot on a boat and you're having to communicate with a radio system and it's maybe not very clear, and so they use these words instead of the letters because they're easier to understand. So Oscar is one of those. So if you had an O in your name, then you would say you would say Oscar for that. So we can abbreviate Oscar to that letter O. And now you see job, and you think, oh, hang on, job, unemployed. If I don't have a job, I am jobless. And where do we get this though? We've got J and O from Jack and Oscar, and then we have this bless. And to invoke a divine favor is to bless. So there's ideas about, for example, God or a priest or someone may say some words or put their hands on your shoulders or some water on your head, and this is a way of blessing you. And so that, another way of saying that is to invoke divine favor. So there we go. Now we've got a J in 9 across, which J's aren't very common letters, so when you see them they're quite useful. Takes issue with articles. Okay, so this is a very kind of maybe the most elementary kind of cryptic crossword clue in a way, where we just have two normal parts put together. So we need a word that means takes issue and a word that means articles, and that's just it. That's the final answer. It means both of those things. And so if you take issue with something, it means that you're not happy with it, so you might complain. and maybe you can think of a word that you could put in there that if you don't like something, you say I to that. Or you could think of another word for articles, meaning things or pieces of stuff. Another word for that, and the word that we get eventually is objects. So things are objects, but also if you don't agree with something, you object to it. So 5 down. Relieve that man underneath chimney dust. Right, so we need here a very short word, just 2 letters that mean that man. So if I say, that man told me that, whatever, what imagination I have. So that man told me to come over here. Now instead of saying that man, what could you say? Just a 2-letter word instead of that man. And you might think of the word he. So we're going to put he, but we're going to put it underneath something else. So we're going to put it at the end of our answer. And then we need at the beginning of the answer a word meaning chimney dust. Now you might remember from things like Mary Poppins, and the kids coming down the chimneys and they're covered in that black dust. Do you remember what that's called? That is called soot. And if we put that all together, we get soothe, which means to relieve. So if you relieve someone's pain, you are soothing their pain. So we can now come up to this top corner, which we don't have many letters to start with. Let's just try, did I already look at 1 down? Spies a male toilet. Interesting. Oh right, yes. This is quite common. This kind of clue here, where we need a word that means spies as our final answer. And here we have one of those little A's again. As I said, if you see a little letter on its own like an A, it almost certainly means it's going to be in the answer as itself. And in this case, we're going to put it at the start. And then we need a word that means male toilets. Now, when you go to the bathroom in a restaurant or something like that, you might see a sign on the door that says whether it's for the men or the women, and there's a particular word they sometimes use for men and another word for women. The men's is often called the gents. So if we pop gents underneath, this gives us agents, and agents are spies. So if you work for the CIA as a spy, you also call it an agent. So 13 across. Very good to sit in lake drunk. Well, drunk very often means in cryptics that, you know, if you're drunk, hopefully you guys have never been drunk. I'm going to say that's definitely true. But if you are drunk, then everything's very confused and you can't walk straight and everything's wobbly and you're kind of mixed up. And so in cryptics, when we see drunk, we're saying we need to mix up some letters. They're out of control. And in this case, we've got sit in lake, which is 9 letters long, and our answer is 9 letters long. So what if we rearrange these letters into a new word that meant very good? Now, the only word that comes to my mind, or I can see from those letters, is this one. So I'm pretty confident you guys aren't going to get this because I'm not even confident that it's correct. But Saturn-like, if something is like Saturn, maybe that means, maybe you could describe something as Saturn-like to mean very good, because of course Saturn is a nice, lovely material. But I've never seen that word, I don't think. So there might be another anagram that I'm not seeing. let's delete it for now, and we'll try to get some other words and see if they confirm that. So 11 across. Disorderly actors then ignored Coppola's leadership and direction. 5-4. So disorderly is a bit like drunk. In fact, often when one is drunk, we say you're drunk and disorderly. So disorderly means out of order, which might mean that we need to rearrange these letters. Now, what if we rearrange these 10 letters? Now, our answer only has 9 letters, so 10 letters is too many. But we can see that it's saying, but we need to ignore Coppola's leadership. So we ignore the leading letter of Coppola. So we take that C and we get rid of it from actors. We're left with A-T-O-R-S and then, and we can rearrange those letters to get a word for direction. And we can see there's a little hyphen in the middle, and just like with the poles north and south, there's other directions as well, and one of them is northeast. And I think we'll see if we rearrange actors, then we get N-O-R-T-H-E-A-S and T, and we got rid of that C because it was Coppola's leadership that was being ignored. Whew, so a lot of work there, but we got there. Now, 8 across. Struggle with hybrid of 2 fruits, perhaps. So I think we need to find 2 different fruits and just put them next to each other, and that will be a word for struggle. But I can't think of what it will be. Might not be right, but I'm just thinking of a grape. Oh, okay. Well, this is quite a cool clue. Right. So I did think of grape, but I thought, well, I can't think of a word that means struggle from grape, but actually there's a word that looks a bit like grape that means struggle, and that is grapple. And what's happening here? Well, to struggle is to grapple. So if you're struggling with your homework, you're grappling with it. Hybrid is a term that means when you mix 2 things together. And it's often used with animals or plants, where you take 2 different species of animals, but you breed them together to make a different one, or particularly with plants. So a lot of the fancy plants you see around didn't kind of spontaneously come out of the ground. We had other plants that we kind of mixed together to make these really elaborate variations. And so if we take 2 fruits in a grape and an apple and we smush them together, we could get a grapple. And that's our final answer. That's a classic Liam Runnels clue. Very nice. Every now and then I run a video which I call the Golden Waffle Awards, and I look at all the best clues that I've seen over the weeks previous and come up with a winner of the Golden Waffle, and I reckon that grapple might be in the running for that. So 4 down. Example in state of contradiction. Okay, yes. So, example. When you're looking at your textbooks at school, sometimes where it says example, it may not have the full word example. It might have just 2 letters. Can you think of what those are? It might have E and G. And I realized I've got an E here. So what if I put my EG, example, and it's inside of another word that means state. And a state is a word for a country. So Australia is a state. It's a bit weird because we also live in Victoria, which is a state, but more generally a state can be referred to as a country. And another word for that is a nation. And if we put nation around the outside of our example, e.g., we get negation, which is another word for a contradiction. So 3 down, we're coming close to finishing now. Result of 60 minutes probing Optus hack. Well, I should know what this is. Oh yes, okay, I was throwing for a second. So 60 minutes, can you think of another word for 60 minutes? I reckon you can. So 60 minutes in 1 hour. Now, when you look at, let's say, an invitation or the TV guide or something where it tells you what time something's on, it might not have, or how long your trip is going to be on the plane. It may not say the full word hour. It might just have an H for hour. So remember that H. And that H is going to probe, which means it's going to go inside of these letters here, rearranged. They're hacked. So if we hack something, we mess it up. So we're going to mess up Optus, and then we're going to put inside of it our H for hour. So if we get Optus rearranged, pop an H inside, we get a word that may not be that commonly understood to little kids, but we get this word upshot, and upshot is the result. It's normally, I think it's normally a positive outcome. So the upshot of the situation was that I got a new car. So there we go. Now 2 down. You guys must be exhausted by now if you're still watching. I know this is hectic stuff. Like I say, we'll make one that's a bit more pint-sized, so that we can not have to deal with all these words that you've never seen before and whatnot. Now 2 down. Causing a scene when transporting oxygen and nitrogen. Yeah, so this is an expression that maybe you've not heard of, but we can start by thinking about oxygen and nitrogen. These are really good examples to come up with, because quite often in cryptic crosswords, what we're looking for is words that we can make shorter, or that we can abbreviate to a single letter, like we turned 1 hour into an H, for example. And oxygen and nitrogen are chemicals. And there's a thing called the periodic table. You may have seen this at school. And the periodic table has a list of all of these elements. I'm not sure how many there is, something 160 or something. And most of them are abbreviated to a single letter, some to 2 letters. And oxygen and nitrogen are really near the top. And oxygen abbreviates to the letter O, and that's where we get H2O for water. That's hydrogen and oxygen. So O for oxygen, and nitrogen is just an N. And if we put that O and the N at the end of our clue, because they're at the end, or at the end of our answer, because they're at the end of the clue, then we need something to go before that that means transporting. So we can have a word here that means transporting, followed by on, and then the whole thing will mean causing a scene. You may have heard of this before. I'm sure you guys have caused many scenes in your time, and maybe someone said stop carrying on. So if you're carrying on, you're really just causing a fuss, but also carrying means transporting, and then O and N for our chemicals. So we're nearing the end. We have this one, and then the one, a couple down there still. So so where am I? 13 across. Very good to sit in. Ah, yes. So it's not Saturn-like. It is an anagram of sit in lake. We're going to make that drunk, but it is the more obvious saint-like. So if you are like a saint, you're saint-like, it means you're very good. Saturn is also very good, so I'll accept that answer, but it wouldn't have fit with carrying. Now, this was the strange one because it had the same clue twice, and I think that's an error. Let me just have a look if there's any way we could solve this. Spooner discusses profit craze to weather tracker. think that's just wrong. I feel like if you're going to repeat the same clue twice, there should be something that says to the reader, by the way, this is deliberate, because I just don't think that's. So we're gonna have to skip on that one, and we'll just have to finish off with 24 down, which I think I was actually. I needed to know 2 down, which I do know now. So printing option for Financial Times 2 down, which means carrying on. So. I see. This is nice. So Financial Times is a newspaper, and it is commonly referred to as FT, just the abbreviation. So, and that FT is going to be carrying on, which means it's going to have inside of it the word on. So we've got an F already. What if we put an F and a T at the end, and then we carry on, and we get font, which is an option for printing. So I think that's as far as we're going to get. We could try to guess what this answer was supposed to be. It could be Sinatra. So let's have a look. Sinatra is a famous singer and dancer. And actually you can't see on your own. Let me scroll down. It says at the bottom there, superlative cruciverbalism. Now, cruciverbalism is a very fancy word made up by crossword people to basically just mean anything to do with crosswords. So superlative cruciverbalism means we've done a good job solving the crossword. So Sinatra must be correct, but as for the clue for that, I don't know what that was supposed to be. Because it's certainly, Sinatra does not mean a weather tracker. So it would have to mean a weather tracker or a spooner, and that's not true. So I think that's just a typo with that clue. But there we go. We managed to get through, and like I say, it might have been a bit of an overwhelming one, this, with a lot of adult words, and they're complex things, these cryptic crosswords. But I hope that Santa, as an opening clue, kind of has whet your appetite to try some of these. And I'm going to try to find, actually, that surely someone in the world has done some friendly, child-friendly cryptics in their time. And if not, I will correct the record and make that so. So watch out for that. Thank you for watching, and thanks to Brendan for letting me know that you guys thought this was kind of interesting. Thank you to everyone else for watching. As always, I will be back again soon with another crossword and or Sudoku. Again, if you do like the content, I do encourage you to subscribe. I'd love to get to 100 subscribers. And until then, happy puzzling, and I'll see you all soon.